38 bodies from the collapsed building.
In-depth analysis of events.
Let's not kid ourselves. Nigerians still vote on ethnic lines. And as a result, a northern candidate, you would think, on paper, would have more chances.
Every time ASU has embarked on strike, the revitalization fund has often come up. And people have asked the question.
The Newsroom. Mondays, 6:15 to 7 p.m. on your number one talk station, 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
From the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board announcing that Ms. Omai Ejikeme is not the highest scorer in this year's UTME examination, to the girl in question herself denying that she altered her results from 249 to 362, and then the DSS getting involved, the Anambra State government getting involved, and then, of course, to Jamb ultimately banning her for 3 years, and she admitting that indeed the results were altered. It's been a whirlwind over the last 2 weeks or thereabout. It's even degenerated into a tribal war, something that you would think should have just been of an institution making pronouncements and we accept, oh, that's how it is. No. Went for it. That's sad. So it's what we should welcome you to another edition of the Newsroom, brought to you by the Newsroom, as we take a critical look at a big story that made the rounds over the last 7 days. Oh, my name, your regular anchor on the show today, and it will not be to my colleagues who have well for the show they will get to enjoy between and about 5 minutes, 7 o'clock. I remember that you can actually watch the show live on Facebook and on YouTube. Facebook is Nigeria 992 Info FM. Before I take a look at the big story for today, which is of course Nigeria and all the downloads and the implications, let's just wrap up some of the big stories that have made the rounds over the last 7 days. Big news from the weekend, Saturday precisely, Eko Bridge was finally reopened. Yeah, I said finally because for commuters and for Lagosians who have had to deal with traffic situations in other roads, other alternative routes, it's been a hellish scenario. Well, I'm just one tiny 0.000000000, to infinity if it's possible, 1% who really did not get to suffer that much, because I really did not have to go through that route on more than 2 or 3 occasions over the last 15 months or thereabout. But a number of my colleagues, not just in the newsroom, but, my other colleagues have gone through a whole lot coming to work on a daily basis, at least Monday to Friday, for those who work Monday to Friday, and it's not been fun. So it's good news that finally the Eko Bridge has been reopened, irrespective of the fact that I haven't really gone through the road, but I've seen a couple of persons, talking on social media about how it took 15 months to fix, but, there are patches of the roads that, haven't been fixed. I think I would have to get confirmation from some of my colleagues who have had to go through that road and ask if truly those accusations are really what it is. But at least, Lagosians, there's a sigh of relief to some extent about the reopening of that road. And it's a big, big deal, especially if you have to go through that road Mondays through Fridays or maybe Saturdays, come to work and go back home. And of course, the governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, warned that Saturday against trading under the bridge. Big warning. And I would think that everybody would heed to that warning. But knowing Nigerians and Lagosians, we will heed it for 1 or 2 days, and by the 3rd day, we will get back to trading under the bridge. And also knowing government is great at putting out warnings, but not really great at enforcing the laws as it ought to be. Yes, somebody would ask me, so if you chase the traders away, what are they now going to do to survive? Well, the honest truth is that selling under the bridge should not be a starter, should not even be a conversation in the first place. That's why fire caught the bridge, and that's why we had to deal with the issues we had to deal with over the last 15 months or thereabout. It's a sad situation. Anyway, more sad news. At least 14 persons. Some reports have suggested that the number is more, but at least 14 persons lost their lives in an accident on the Lagos-Badagry Expressway on Sunday morning. Someone called the show Morning Crossfire early in the morning and talked about how one of the reasons for possibly that accident is the fact that one side of the road has been fixed and the other side hasn't been fixed. And so motorists have to deal with using the one way that is good. My family house is in Badagry. I think I've said that a couple of times. There's one reason I hate going that route. The road is horrible. The road is terrible. It's a little better now. At least some portions of the road have been fixed, but it's still not good enough. And when I think about the effort of going from here all the way down to Badagry just to see my mom, I think again. I do. And I can understand the harrowing experience of people who have to ply that road on a daily basis. By the way, it's a federal road. Yeah, it's actually not, you could argue, it's not the responsibility of the Lagos state government. It is a federal road. It's the road that actually leads to another country. And if you're coming in from Benin Republic, that's like the first thing you see coming into Nigeria. Yet, we're supposedly the giant of Africa. And we can't as much as fix the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. It's been... So we have to deal with situations where we lost at least 14 persons, including a 4-month-old baby. Working on that news yesterday night and this morning, it was heartbreaking. Really heartbreaking. Anyway, the APC also earlier today, or was it yesterday, postponed their National Caucus and National Executive Committee meeting, which was scheduled to start today. We also saw the President, Bola Tinubu, establishing a presidential committee on fiscal policy and tax reforms. And of course, the NDLEE announced to us, or told us, that a suspect in the Ajah area was arrested conveying 89 bags of skunk. The drug war is still horrible. And talking about people dying, just last week, the NCDC announced to us that about 80 people in Nigeria have died as a result of diphtheria. I remember writing this news about 2 months ago or thereabout, when the outbreak was just about coming in. 80 have lost their lives. 798 cases already in the country. And NEMA also warned about 14 states having possible flood later this month. We all know how the flood was horrible last year. I'm hoping that we don't get to that point again. So whatever needs to be done, government, we the individuals in these 14 states, I think the earlier we do that, the better for us. Those were some of the big stories, of course, including the outcome of the JAMB investigations and the Anambra State investigations into the Ufuoma Egbamuno case. And that's where we're going to start the show today, people. I have a guest who is an education researcher and he's a leader of Nigerian teachers community. I'll get to him in a bit. Just before I do, I really want to talk about what something that really got me upset in the last 10 days or 2 weeks or thereabout, how as a nation we do not have trust again for our institutions. And so our institutions, we look at them with side eye, or how we say it in local parlance, side bombastic eye. Abi? Bombastic side eye. See, I'm Gen X sometimes. I try to follow some of these things. But you get what I mean. Such that when JAMB first of all came out with a statement accusing Mmesoma of fraud, instead of us as a people, and I'm talking us generally now, instead of us as a people to really first of all look at the issue critically and ask ourselves, what exactly is the problem? Can JAMB as an institution just wake up and make those weighty allegations without having proof or having knowing what they're doing? But you see, as a result of the fact that we as a country have bastardized our institutions to the point where we don't trust our government anymore, whether it's local, state, federal, we don't. And it's a sad situation. And that's why instead of us as a people to first of all look at the issues that JAMB as an agency raised, we turned the issue into a circus. And we turned it into we gave it ethnic coloration. I saw things on Twitter and on social media that broke my heart. People are alleging that the only reason JAMB is making the accusations they were making was because of the ethnic tribe that Mmesoma came from. And sometimes some of these people even making these allegations, you think that they should know better. But that's the sad reality of where Nigeria is at the moment. This time last year or thereabout, I remember saying on air, I think I was speaking to my colleague Sheriff Quadri, and I talked about how the emergence of the political actors, the major presidential candidates of the parties at the time, that I fear for this country. And I feel sad because that I thought that it would take us back to the 60s. And it looks like that's where we are right now. No, it doesn't look like. That's where we are right now. Such that everything and anything you say in this country, a lot of people do not look at these things critically anymore. They look at it from the lens of tribe. Oh, are you a Yoruba person talking? Oh, that's why you're probably against this thing. Oh, are you an Igbo man? Yes, that's why you're supporting this. Oh, are you from Hausa, Fulani? Oh, yes, that's why you are saying this. It's no longer about the issues anymore. It's about the tribe. It's about where you come from. January 15th or thereabout this year, I remember on the show talking about how Nigeria as a country has not healed from the events of January 15th, 1966. The first military coup that the original planners actually say was supposed to be about eradicating corruption and taking Nigeria away from the corrupt politicians. Sadly, that coup, maybe by design or by the implications of the things that happened, some persons were killed, some persons were spared. That coup, even if it was not the original plan of the original planners, turned into or was given an ethnic coloration. 6 months later, there was another counter coup by a section of the country that felt, oh, the first coup was targeted at us. The first military head of state did not even help matters. Arguing Uronsi didn't help matters. And then it led to a civil war. And then years after, 2023, we are still suffering the effect of that coup and the war. And so a section of the country believes that almost everything is against them. As someone from Delta State who lived 14 years in the Southeast and who has lived over 12, 15 years in the Southwest, I think I'm well placed to some extent to see the two sides of the divide. I've repeatedly said on this station that Nigerians, we really do not love ourselves that much. You know, we've just been a unit, we paper the cracks and all of that. But if there's one thing I have faulted, and I will continue to fault the government of the last administration, President Muhammad Buhari, is the fact that our fault lines were exacerbated so much under his regime, or under his rule. His aloofness and his I don't care attitude, you know, the things we used to say in our houses that we don't say publicly, now we are so bold to say it. And we saw the manifestations in the build-up to the elections and on the election day. And I dare say that the effects of the things we did in the build-up to the elections, the divisions, the ethnic bigotry, the ethnic colorations to almost everything, the effects, we will continue to suffer for it for the foreseeable future, sadly. And that's why, whether you want to accept it or not, an issue that ordinarily should have been a question of the agency, JAMB, versus the child in question or the young girl in question who we have now found out actually manipulated our results. Instead of it to be that, no, we turned that conversation into a Yoruba versus Igbo fight. It is sad. It is very, very sad. And I hope that we don't continue to play into the hands of our politicians, because whether we want to accept it or not, it's also part of the plan by the politicians. See, they like themselves. You think they're fighting? No, they are not fighting. 2 a.m., 3 a.m., they're having meetings together. Tribe doesn't concern them. But you and I will continue to fight over Mesoma and JAMB or the next public issue. Because, oh, I'm from this tribe, oh, I'm from that tribe. It's not going to help us. I have so much to say, but I think I would leave it at that. I will just leave it at that. And I really hope that we can honestly get past this nonsensical and disgusting behavior that some of us have been showing. Anyway, I've got, like I said earlier, an education researcher who's the leader of a Nigerian teachers community of over 500,000 members. Dr. Peter Ogunduro is joining us on the show this evening, and we want to really take a critical look at the implications of altering results. It's not the first time it happened, but the Mesoma case, has just shown us how we have degenerated as a society. A very good evening to you, sir. Welcome to the newsroom.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to join you. Good evening.
Thank you very much for taking time, to join us on the show. First things first, let me ask you, as a researcher, what do you think is the reason we have the kind of sharp practices we have in examinations in the country?
Yeah, it's not supposed to be a complicated issue for us to understand. You don't need a degree from Harvard University to understand why young people will be desperate to obtain credentials. We live in a society that has presented academic credentials as the only way to be successful in life. And we also run an education system that is very competitive, where most schools still rank children. And so if you take first position in your class, you are celebrated by your teacher. Your parents attend end of term or end of session, programs, and work taller than the rest of the parents who also pay school fees in the same school. And parents actually fight over whose child gets the first position, the second, and the third, and who gets awards. And the reason why this fight goes on is because we also know that a lot of the things we distribute in society by way of rewards go only to those who show such credentials, whether they merit them or not. Even in employment, ask human resources managers, ask young people who just finished university who are desiring to work in banks and oil companies. They are also asked to present
2-1.
First
class.
And first class. And then those who finish high school and they want to access university, they don't have adequate opportunities to fulfill their dreams. So if you want to study medicine, an average mark is not enough for you to get in there. And in fact, it has got worse now, because in the past, when I was much younger and I was trying to get into university, I only needed to write one exam called University Matriculation Exam, UTME, and that was all. And when I passed, I didn't have to go to anywhere. I didn't write what they call post-UTME now, which universities conduct. So my admission letter was sent to me via post. I didn't have to know anyone. That is not the case now. Now, the system is that you need A's in probably minimum of 6 relevant subjects if you want courses like medicine, engineering, pharmacy, and business administration. In addition to that, you also have to earn very high scores, probably minimum of 300, and you also have to excel in the post-UTME exam. So our children are under enormous pressure to impress relevant institutions who regulate who gets into universities. And our parents know that if you become a medical doctor, all other factors equal, you are not going to become a beggar. You will be able to earn enough money to be able to take care of your family and probably look after your parents when they get very old. So knowing all of this, parents even in some sense pretend they don't know what is happening, and they fund examination malpractice. A researcher in the industry, the average parent will tell you that their children are not involved. They are the only exceptions to the rule. But if you do my kind of work, you will know that as we speak today, when we are down to facing the reality on the ground, what you will find is that minimum 8 out of every Nigerian child writing NECO, WAEC, or JAMB exam will be willing to cheat if the opportunity is there. And they're actually doing so. And in many schools, parents fund it. They call it logistics fee. Especially those who run the private school system. They have a way of also competing with other private schools in their neighborhood. So the school that presents a record of all the children here wrote JAMB, and they all earned the minimum of 280. And when they wrote their NECO and WAEC, everybody finished with 9 A's. So those kinds of credentials are presented, and parents gravitate towards such schools because perception they have is that we don't have enough opportunities in our country for children to go to school, which is not the truth, really. Unfortunately, relevant public agencies who are supposed to provide career management services and counseling services and right information for children to be able to manage their careers well, so that they do not have to compete at the level we have seen it, don't also have the right manpower to provide assistance that young people need to be able to access opportunities without having to compete at this aggressive and very despicable level with their mates. And so I was listening to your intro to this to this conversation, and you made very valid points. And so the point, you have laid a foundation, and I'm also indicating very clearly that there are many myths on man. The problem with our country is that when one myth on man, gets to this level, every other person becomes a saint, really. But if you do my kind of work as a researcher in the industry, over 50% of Nigerian children at the level of education that we find in Mesoma is an Mesoma, because if they have the opportunity to cheat, to upgrade their scores, they certainly will do so. And any parent who tells you they doesn't know what I'm talking about is a parent who is behaving like the ostrich, and pretending they don't know what is happening. But that's the truth of the matter. So we need to democratize access to higher education. And we need to also make it generally easy for young people to learn. The teaching methodology that we adopt in the school system today is completely anachronistic. I just returned from Finland, where I went to do educational research, and it was shocking to, pleasantly surprising for me to discover that the Finnish people run a school system where you don't write any exam until you're age 16. But our children start writing exams here from the age of 18 months. And we start comparing them to their mates. In Finland, nobody does that. Children are given opportunity to just come to school, play until you're about the age of 5. Then you can start thinking about enrolling in a primary school. But even when you do enroll in a primary school, nobody puts you through the kind of examinations we put children through here. Nobody ranks you. And so you just get opportunity to develop your creative ability. It's only when you're ready to go to university that they give you opportunity to make a choice as to whether you want to go and do pure academics or you want to go and learn a trade and use your hands to work to help society. And everybody, no matter your state in life, is recognized as somebody who has a contribution to make. And you don't have to be a doctor to be respected. You don't have to be president to be useful to society. So the MS Thomas case is not as simple as the average, analyst is making people to believe. It has little or nothing to do with MS Thomas. It has more to do with the kind of society we have created. It's a society that is highly materialistic, a society where you have to be that thing everybody perceives to be the most important thing for you to be accepted in your community. Even teachers are on a teacher's community, and I tell you that the average Nigerian teacher is very sad, because they don't earn a lot of money and they don't get the respect they deserve in society. They train everyone, but nobody cares about them, really. So all the money goes to bankers, to oil company, employees, and probably to scammers who are cheating everyone. So, my friend, I sympathize with you, and I sympathize with myself, and I sympathize with every Nigerian. Our problem is not, this matter we are looking at is not as simple as it comes across. It's not Mesoma's case, it is Nigeria's case. And the average Nigerian child is at that level, and we have to start thinking seriously about how to help them. And so we have no victor, and probably we'll have a vanquished, who in this case is a Mesoma. I tell you, society has not won.
I am very, very wary of using that line as famously used by the Gowon administration after the Civil War, because there was indeed a victor and a vanquished. It's one of the lines we've used to sweep under the carpet things we were supposed to have dealt with in 1970. We didn't deal with it. 50 plus years after, we're still seeing the repercussions of that no victor, no vanquished. But you've laid down the foundation. How do you think we can start solving some of these issues?
It is important we work on our teachers. As I have said, anyone who doesn't do my kind of job, or probably is not a colleague in the industry, maybe doesn't have background in sociology, psychology, and psychotherapy, might just say, that child is poorly brought up. No, it's not about Mesoma. The average Nigerian child cheats today. It's the truth of the matter. And why do they cheat, and why do they fall prey to the kind of story that was sold to Mesoma? One of the things we have ignored in the whole of this process is the high probability that Mesoma didn't act alone. Mesoma didn't create the technology she used. Mesoma didn't introduce herself to the technology or introduce the technology to herself. There are people who deceived the Mesoma into believing that they could get into the JAM system, hack into it, and give her a score she did not earn. If all the evidence I have gathered from the reports you guys in the media have provided, is anything to go by. And so those people we have not been able to find them out. And I suspect very strongly that Mesoma and her family will be under enormous pressure and threat to ensure that they do not disclose the people who have pushed the young girl into this kind of calamity. That's the truth of the matter. So those people are professional scammers who earn money by deceiving parents and young people into believing that they can take them to places that they do not deserve to get to, by reason of their scores, really. So we need, and then why do people of this age, somebody who has finished high school ready to go to university, why would such a person accept that it's possible to manipulate your scores and get you into the university without you meriting it? The reason is simple. The teachers we have today working in most schools in Nigeria do not know how to teach. There's so much focus on helping children to pass exams, because exams and the credentials people get through that process are being used to promote schools and make people look good and better, than their fellow citizens. So if you want to move forward, you need to train your teachers well so that they stop focusing on teaching children what to think and start teaching them how to think. Because if someone was trained to focus more on how to think, someone would have asked questions. I suspect in the course of your preamble, you did make reference to, things like, without necessarily using that concept, things like critical thinking and analytical, thinking, learning to ask questions. When people come and tell you you are the highest scorer, is the person jammed? That's the question you should ask him. I have also, I have children who have passed through this same system who didn't cheat. And I go to their schools during open days, and their school principals tell me that even when other people are cheating, they don't cheat. And I laugh at them, because my children cannot cheat because I didn't trust the school system to train them, probably because I'm privileged to have my kind of background as somebody who has advanced skills in education. But the average teacher is not teaching well. There's so much focus on pass chemistry, pass physics, make A's in those subjects, go and study medicine and engineering, and you become a very successful person, which is not the truth. That's not how the world works. Mesoma wanted to go and study medicine. What Mesoma does not know, that she could have ended at the level of going into the university with her score, studying microbiology. Under the same 6-7 years, she will move from high school and get a PhD within a period of maximum 8 years. And for somebody going in for medicine, it takes the person about 7 years to finish. So you are finishing, coming out the school system within the same time frame, but you are getting a PhD in microbiology, which is probably what her score ends her. But I tell you, in the world we live in today, if you have a PhD in microbiology, or in chemistry, or in physics, or in mathematics, all other factors equal, anywhere in the world, including in Nigeria, you will earn much more money and be more impactful than the average medical doctor who stops with a first degree MBBS. Mesoma does not know that. And you can't blame Mesoma for not knowing that. The government has a responsibility. We are not providing a career management system that educates our children and their parents to know that these courses they keep thinking are the things that matter. Computer science, engineering, medicine. Those are not the only courses in the world. Go to the advanced societies. Nobody, they talk about small things that make a huge difference. Mathematics is the king now. Anywhere in America, in Canada, in Germany, in Britain, the average Nigerian child doesn't want to hear about mathematics. Because we have presented maths, if you study maths, you can only be a teacher, which is not the truth. All other professions in the world need mathematics, a mathematics teacher. But one of the reasons why we have this problem with critical thinking is the fact that we don't have good teachers on mathematics in the system. Because we are not promoting mathematics, we are not paying teachers well. So nobody wants to go and study those kinds of things. So let's teach our children to become good thinkers by taking attention away, that's talking about the teachers now, from teaching children what to think, and move them from teaching them, and move children into learning how to think. In the advanced societies, when you arrive any university in England, really, today, in your first semester, one of the focuses, even if you are going for PhD, is to teach you how to learn, not teaching you the specific things you have come there to do. And once we have taught you how to learn, you can learn most of the things on your own. So some of the curricula we are spending 5 years to teach here, you can teach in only 3 months. Because after we have taught the child how to learn, the child can pick up the rest of the things, on her own, without having to, have a teacher sit with her
Dr.
all
Peter.
the time. So, my friend, these are the challenges we have in your system. We don't have, the teachers we have not been properly trained. The parents are not getting good guidance because we don't have career management system in schools.
Okay.
The counselors we have in the school system haven't also gone through a good university system that has trained them to acquire modern skills on how to work with all the stakeholders in the system. So what do? They're only helping children to fill JAMS forms, to fill NECO forms, and all. They're not doing their job.
And just pass exams. All right, Dr. Peter. Sadly, we do not have so much time again on the show. I don't know if you will be available next week. I think there's so much that we can talk about. Maybe 10-15 more minutes next week. Even no matter what happens next week, I would like to have you back on the show to talk more on this issue, because I think there's a lot more to talk about.
Excellent. Hopefully I'll be available. I'll be happy to hear from you again.
All right, thank you very much. That's, of course, an education researcher, Dr. Peter Oguduro, giving us his thoughts right there. A couple of your messages on WhatsApp that I've seen. Someone actually, talked about how someone made an accusation last Saturday and I was on the show. Well, I was not on the show last Saturday. I don't present a program on Saturday. But Chike from Ibutemeta, I think I get what you're trying to say. My final words will be bigotry and tribalism will take us nowhere. We would all be fine if we can, like my guests say, ask questions, do some bit of critical thinking. We'll talk about this more next week on the show, irrespective of what happens this week. I'll try and create 10 or 15 minutes to talk about this. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno. Thanks to everyone who's been a part of this program. Stay safe, people.
Samsung is back with an affordable 5G smartphone, the 5G device. This device has new beautiful designs in amazing colors. It is protected by Knox Security.